Okay, hello and welcome. For those that have used GoToWebinar before, please let me know in the question box whether you can see the famous Pink Floyd icon and whether you can hear me. This is our cheating way. Yep, thanks. Thank you, everyone's on the board with this now. Awesome, thanks guys. I'd like to acknowledge the First Nation people throughout the land where I'm speaking from, the traditional lands of the people of the Kulin Nation, the Wurundjeri people in Melbourne, and I'd like to acknowledge them as traditional owners and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and the elders in other communities, and acknowledge that the land on where I'm meeting and we're all meeting today is a place of age-old ceremonies and celebration, initiation, and land that was never ceded. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about setting community emissions reduction targets, specifically science-derived targets, and have some pretty awesome guests. Here is the running sheet. We've got a fair bit to go through, so we're going to pretty much just jump straight into it. I'm going to do a really quick bit of housekeeping first. So GoToWebinar, as I think most of the people on the line know, it's a little bit different to Zoom and all the other things we're used to this year. We can't hear any of the guests, so it's only the presenters that can be heard throughout the presentation. And I'll ask those guys who are presenting to please make sure you're muting yourself. Jump in anytime with questions in the GoToWebinar question box. Just make sure it's really specific what your question's about, who it's for. And if we don't get to it all today, we'll definitely be able to get to it later. This is quite an interesting topic around targets, and I think we're going to have some very differing views discussing this today, and just want to point out that that's totally okay. I know within the Ironbark office, we've often had very robust discussions about the point of targets, what they are, how they mean, how they work, and what they should be used for. And I think that's okay, and it's really good to have that conversation with everyone, because people are coming at it from different perspectives, as we'll go through in a second. And finally, we are recording. I hope we're recording. Yep, we are recording. Today, we try and, as most people know, keep these pretty informal. It's the end of 2020. This is going to be really informal, and apologies in advance if we get a little bit sloppy at times, because, you know, it's 2020. Post-webinar, you can download a 20-page doco. All we need is a little bit of information or feedback from you. We just want to know what you thought and how we can improve these things and what you want us to put on in future webinars. But we've got a 20-page doco that essentially goes through and explains a bit of background on targets and things that you can do, and a little bit of advice, some of the issues with setting targets in certain ways. This is Ironbark. We work with councils around Australia on climate programs. That's pretty much it. I'm going to cut through our background. Most of you will know we work on programmatic approaches to reducing emissions, and we have done for about 15, 20 odd years. All we do is work with councils around Australia on climate, corporate and community programs. This is you. There are 113 registrations at the end. Don't know how, 68 odd on board at the moment. From all around Australia, which is great. Here's the state-by-state breakup, just so you know. These slides will be available afterwards, and so again, if this sort of stuff is interesting to you, you can have access to it afterwards. And we've got a great mix of people who have been at councils for various amounts of times, and we do use this info to try and target, I guess, you know, how much time we put into various bits of background information or otherwise. But it's a really good mix, I guess, here today. And here are your questions and / comments. Some of them are questions, and we're going to get to these. So thank you for bringing these up. Some of them are comments, and thank you for those too. Forgive me if I've already registered and I don't want to take the place if numbers are limited. Such a lovely bunch of people. We also asked you in advance, why do you think it's important to have a community emissions reduction target? This is the best I could do with a word cloud, because it was quite challenging getting the sentences. Those that would have received an Ironbark newsletter a few days ago, we actually collated and sent through all of the responses, and it's really quite interesting. And again, we'll touch on this today, why you actually have a target, because people, councils set targets for different reasons. Some are looking at it to actually look at accountability, to try and measure impact. Others, It's an act of getting the community on board and making sure that everyone's singing from the same song sheet. There are different reasons to have targets. Okay, I'm going to get straight into passing on to Imogen Jubb from Beyond Zero Emissions. Before I do, Imogen, today's about targets, as you know, and we all well know. And in the past, when we look at a sort of programmatic approach to reducing emissions, this is nothing new or revolutionary. We look at insight or baseline or inventory sort of side of things. Then we step on to targets, strategy, action, and evaluation. We think and we hope that we've already fixed up the insights thing for, well, hopefully every council within Australia. And we do actually have a special thing, if I can get my computer to work. Where are we here? To talk about the insights side of things. So bear with me. I'm going to put this up and hope you can hear this.
I think we're all aware that when we're trying to hit a target in our private lives, whether that's trying to achieve a certain amount of kilometres on the treadmill at the gym, that we need a starting point. We need a solid baseline measurement. And despite all the great work that councils and communities have done to lower their emissions in the past decade, this has largely been done without access to local data, without really...
Turn it up, everyone's saying, can't hear it. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about that. I'll give it one more go. And if not, we'll send it out afterwards.
About where the emissions are coming from in that particular municipality. Well, now, Beyond Zero Emissions, Ironbark Sustainability and local governments have developed a free tool called Snapshot Climate, and allows you to put in your postcode, and then up will come the areas where you're generating the emissions in your community across transport, electricity, waste, agriculture, land use changes. And what it does is allow you to now have some really solid ammunition to write to your council to express the areas of concern that need changing in your area. And the tool is also linked to Beyond Zero Emissions Million Jobs Plan. So you can also say to the council, hey, there's this terrific opportunity to create more jobs while we're dealing with these problems and lowering our emissions. Get involved. It's snapshotclimate.com.au, a terrific initiative. Get on there and start writing to your council and raising that awareness about where the emissions are coming from in your particular region.
All right, Imogen, I'm going to pass to you and give you control. You can talk to that if you like, and you can explain why councils are going to get all these letters